Hi everyone, Miss Butt here with today's class text. Our class text is the riddles or the runes. Remember, we are collecting the runes that are in the middle of the mountain. That's right. This is the final chapter of the book. So the title of this chapter is To Give from Afar. The sound of men's shouts were getting even closer, ever closer. The sun was now turning the sky pink and red in a blaze of colour over the snow-white mountains. What beautiful imagery the author has used there. It hasn't told you that it's getting to sunset. They've described it using colors. I want you to pause the video and note that down. So when you write your story, I want you to use those words. Magpie them even. Let's continue. From the side of the mountain, they could just make out a tiny boat with two figures inside of it, rowing frantically away towards the sea. Ingild and Gudrun are free, Brianna said, looking out. I wish them well. Alva glowered at her mother's words. Her heart was still set on revenge, but right now her mind was focused on finding the treasure her father had so carefully concealed. Brianna looked down at Alva gently. Daughter, where is this cave you and your father hid in? Alva ruffled her red hair thoughtfully. I was very young. I'm not entirely sure, but I know it had a ring of stones near the entrance. The monk spoke up. If you remember from the inscriptions, there was a mention of a birch tree. We should perhaps find a cave with a birch nearby. But there's so many, Brianna grumbled. How will we find it before the men make it across to us? This is our riddle to solve. We need to finish this. If they get here before we find Bjorn's treasure, we will have to stand back while the Carls take control. Magnus spoke again. Bjorn had left trails from our different locations. We have not been very good at following them, but if we retrace our steps to where we last saw your name engraved, Brianna, perhaps we might find a path to the cave. All agreed this was a good a plan as any. So they retraced their steps back to where they had grappled with Ingild and over the top of the rocks. There they found Bjorn's now familiar scratchings. Look forward a few steps, everyone, Magnus instructed. Can you see any others? Wuglap cried out, Here! Another rock had the Gibo rune carved on it. So they picked up the pace again, walking in a line with Fenrir at the head, each trying to avoid the sheer drops that loomed to their left. They were wrapping right around the back of the dwarf's finger now, and here the rocks were even more sheer, and the open sea howling below. Another word that you should be writing, another sentence you should write down, the open sea howling below. This feels familiar, Albert said thoughtfully. Suddenly a clearing appeared in the face of the mountain. There, as she had described, was a ring of stones around the edge of the open space, and proudly reaching towards the skies, right by the entrance to the cave, stood a huge, magnificent ancient birch tree. No one spoke. They all knew this was it. Alva was the first to move. She crunched over the snow down the incline towards the cave ahead. It was smaller than the one they had found the Englishman inside. This was more of a tunnel than a hollowed out space. The others followed her. It looks small and dark, she said. Look, Edmund cried out. He was pointing at a carving to the right of the cave's entrance. What does it say? Magnus peered down at the rock and took his magnifying glass out of his pouch. Help me examine this carving, Alva said. Her uncle said, calling her forward. Now I'm going to leave it here. I want you to think about what do you think the carving could be? And let's find out in our next part of the book. Goodbye.